There you go. Oh, where'd you go? There you are. There, you're back. Yeah, so we were talking about jazz, and you approached it. We both, coming from Toronto, we both studied with Jim Blackley, and so that was probably my first introduction to how to conceptualize playing jazz. And it always scared me. And it scared me up until Richard Martinez, who introduced me to the concept of the J, which I've told you about. Explained to me that really jazz is just a double shuffle. It's just the blues. It really is. And then he taught me that what you're trying to do is play the melody. That's really what it's about. And then all the stuff you've worked on over the years, they all come into play. But I had come from studying playing patterns. Right? And Jim would have I'm losing it. Right? And you and so, right? You know the exercises.
Oh, I mean.
And so let me keep going here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so that was, and you studied a lot longer, so.
Yes.
And so there might be more to it than that, but.
There's a lot more to it than that.
But that was the essence of it. That's the essence of his book.
Well, it's
So he'll take a pattern, and then he'll break it down into subdivisions, and you're hearing that rhythmic pattern, which is, all of that stuff is really helpful. But what I learned, but I would go to play gigs, and it would be like, I guess it helped my coordination. It helped me, but to insert those ideas into a musical situation where the melody isn't any rhythm that you may have learned. The idea I learned from Richard is it's just a double shuffle. And see what you start to try to do. Getting the melody in the double shuffle. And then everything, it's not about learning a bunch of licks. Dick hated that. That was Dick's. It's just the licks, the drummers know the licks du jour, right? Which are the licks of the day, which make other musicians feel good because it means that they're listening to the same hip records. They're learning those licks, and they have to have good time. And that's where the drummer, that's what, and they just play licks. And they sound really fast around the drums, but when it comes to playing the snare drum, that's not their thing, okay? And you can play pretty great drummers that might not, there are aberrations. But in fact, Elvin Jones was Richard's favorite drummer in the world, and he wasn't known as like this heavy technique, but he was just completely emoting music, and was so deep in it. So Dick just didn't like playing licks, and Lord knows I'm working on it too. How do you play melody on the drums? That's where it goes, and so jazz really is just, and people got real scared of it. And it's once I realized that's it, really, you learn how to play the instrument, and you can start to kind of play the melody on the drums in a smooth musical fashion with dynamics, making good contact with the instrument. It's a combination, it seems to me, of those two things. So jazz is a scary thing, and that you've played a bunch of jazz gigs and have spent time doing that and that's what I can't get some of my students to do. And as I was saying, all your favorite drummers, really, they all play jazz. No.
Well, it depends on sort of the environment that a student is reared in, because if they're going to university, for instance, and they're studying music at the post-secondary level, they have access to that sort of thing, playing jazz in school ensembles or forming groups with other musicians in their program, so then they can form trios and quartets, and then they can take it somewhere to cafes and venues and the recs and whatever. It's much harder. I find that a lot of say, for instance, young people, like myself included. I mean, when I was growing up, and back in the early 1980s, getting into music, I was listening to the Beatles. I was getting into the Who's music. I was getting into Led Zeppelin and things of listening to U2 and things like that. So that's rock music. English rock music was the native music that was pretty much filling my ear. So that the jazz thing also. I mean, I would listen to 91.1 and listen to Jazz FM. It was CJRT back in those days. That's what it was known as. And I was really drawn into what I was hearing. I wasn't familiar with the artists or what the songs were, but I heard something in that music that was attractive to me. So I can remember, being 14, 15, 16 years old, doing my homework, listening to CJRT 91.1, and hearing Miles Davis, hearing John Coltrane's quartet, hearing Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, hearing all kinds of things, and not really knowing who those artists were at the time. But there was something captivating about it that entranced me and drew me into the music.
Well, the other thing, and this is Don Thompson's point of view, which is that he said to me, back when it was really happening and jazz was surging, and he was just coming along, and as a kid, that was the hip thing to do. You were sure if you were doing that, you see. And now it's not considered the hip thing to do, although there's been some kind of resurgence, Martini and jazz thing, which is, it's just cool. But so there's an interesting psychology that isn't happening anymore. But I think I sense that you did find, you felt, you recognized the meaningfulness of it.
Oh, absolutely. And then I realized that a lot of the musicians that I was listening to, be it, say, Paul McCartney or Pete Townsend with The Who, they listened to jazz. That's what they were listening to. That's what was inspiring them.
There you go.
Sting, whoever it was. I mean, they were all listening to jazz and studying the harmony and the chord progressions, and they were familiar. Pete Townsend's father was Cliff Townsend. He played alto sax in an RAF big band.
I can tell you that I was at the Exposition in Toronto. Is that what they call it? Where's that? What is the really big venue there in Toronto?
What, CNE, the Canadian National Exhibition, or yeah.
And I think I saw the Who there maybe 4 times.
Yeah.
And so when there was a well-known sax player in town, he mentioned that, well, Kevin is like one of the real jazz drummers in town. I was like, well, that was like a gigantic compliment, because like you, although I came up as a kid backing singers and swinging and learning how to play, having to play some jazz,
Yeah. Oh, I heard it. I heard it in the television, the global thing.
Yes, you can hear that. But I went through, as a teenager, I was hearing a lot of that rock stuff too. So, so it takes some awareness and some effort to develop that part of your playing, and that's what I'm hoping. Maybe this conversation will instill that in some of my students, or in some of the drummers interested out there who are trying to grow and develop on their instrument. And through jazz is and through jazz you learn the idea of how to swing. That gives you that, because if you only know how to play straight up and down eighth notes, you can't swing. And probably conversely, if you can only swing and you can't play straight up and right, that was probably the magic of someone like Ringo, who was in his hi-hat time. It was almost like, what is that?
Yeah.
So it's fascinating, right? Okay, well let's do a little bit of work while we're
okay, yeah.
together here.
This conversation could develop and ramify, and it can roll into all sorts of other things.
We could do a little radio show.
Exactly. Yeah.
How we put that together, I'm not quite sure. But, that's a fun idea, actually. There's someone out here doing that, as a well-known singer, doing something, interviewing people. So we were working on flams.
Yeah, I was doing the upstroke and downstroke, and I was playing those at quarter note. I was playing each stroke, each 16th note as a quarter note. At quarter note equals 16.
I had you at around 60.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I was doing the flams as well, right hand flam, left hand, and alternating flams.
As half notes.
Yeah, and then I was doing the rolls, the roll strokes, the rolls on the wrist, and I was doing the 7, 9, 11, and 13, and that was at quarter note equals 56. Playing each stroke at quarter note equals 56.
Good. Okay. Well, let's start. Let's take a look at the. This is going to be interesting. Once again, back to my old friend. I studied with Toronto. Let's put a bow on the conversation, I guess, because we were talking about Toronto. But I studied. My first teacher, at the age of 7, was Ed Gold.
Ed Gold.
It was recommended to my father through Long and McQuade, a famous music store. Which, by the way, I don't know if you know it, but like Guitar Center looks up to Long and McQuade. It's really interesting. Yeah, they were really important. And I studied with Jack McQuade as well.
Right. He was a drummer. Yeah.
Interesting completion there, the circle. But Ed Gold started me off playing traditional, so that was my first grip, right? I ended up playing an awful lot like this. I can't even remember in that video, what was I playing? Was I playing matched or traditional? Probably matched.
I don't remember.
You say probably matched, but I don't know.
I'd have to watch it again.
At a certain point, when I ended up with Murray, after Wally Snow, who I think I worked with studying this direction, this technique. I think I worked with him in match, but I went to Murray and I was playing a jazz gig at the time, a steady jazz gig, 6 nights a week, and I wanted to know. I remember playing a lot of traditional on that gig and thinking, and he said, okay, well, what's it going to be? You have to tell me. It's one or the other. He's pretty firm about it. It's like, okay, I'll do it. And of course, down the way, people like Jack Ferguson, you have no idea how much exponentially you've increased the length of time it's going to take you to get this, because they really are two different pieces, although they share so much in common. But
Jack's a match grip player. Yeah.
They really are different. So anyway, now I'm here. So let's see. You go ahead and play. Put the metronome on. Put the metronome on at 40.
Okay, what are we playing?
56, didn't we? We're playing alternating. Or let's see where you are. But we're playing flams.
Oh, you want me to do the flams? Okay. The flams were played at. I played them at 40. Yeah. was right. That was a right hand flam.
Okay. Okay, go the other way.
Okay. Don't want my thumbs creeping up, but I'll let you get on the case for that. Here we go.
You know, go both ways.
Here we go.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I've thought about the whole concept of feeling nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That was really upper crust in my mind as I was working on this, and when I would go to pronate for the upstroke, just thinking of nothing. So I remember what you said to me. You want to feel something.
That's from Richard Martinez.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard Martinez. And Dick would say, "It's nothing. It's nothing." But what does that mean? What does it mean to do nothing? You see, that's because until you start to really experience it or truly understand it, they're just words. But it's good because the words are important. Yeah. Remember, Dick Wilson said to Jack Verga when he asked, "Isn't there another way you can show us this? Show me this?" I don't think Jack would mind me mentioning this. And Dick said, crossed his legs, took a breath, and said, "I'm going to repeat these words. I'm using the words that are in my mind that I think best represent what it is I'm doing. And I'm going to continue to repeat those words until you understand what those words mean." That was the answer. So
That's right.
But what does doing nothing? That's good that you're thinking that way. That's really cool that you made that a primary focus. Now here's another Richard Martinezism. You have to think of everything, which I find can often be overwhelming. I remember thinking about that. I have to think, but in thinking of nothing, interestingly, you ultimately end up thinking of nothing. And so there's an interesting yin and yang going on right there. Okay. But right now, and it's better, right? And it changed as you went along a little bit. Your left changed. First, your left did something like you really turned high, and then it shifted into what your right was doing, which was with a better grip, which is where you come up and you wait.
Yeah.
You come up and you wait, and then you turn.
Yes.
So Dick used to say it's about learning the timing of the motion. That can have a lot to do with it. But I know that perhaps remedially it's helpful to think about waiting. Right? Okay. There's that feeling I may have mentioned where it's just hanging. Okay. And then so I'll show you. I'm not sure. It may be another student I have who's very interested in Spivack, studied with someone who studied with Murray Spivack. And so he's kind of fascinated with all things Murray Spivack relative to Dick Wilson. And included, should be mentioned, things should be considered relative to Richard Martinez's approach as well. You know, there's some really There's a lot of thought that some of these guys have put into this stuff, right? And so you've watched the Murray Spivack video, right? Right? Well, Dick, that's why before I studied with Richard Wilson, I mentioned, because I'd heard about him, and Murray said, oh, he comes in all the students come in with a gooseneck.
Right.
Okay. And if you ask Dick what he's doing, he said, he's doing what Murray Spivack did. It's Murray Spivack. However, and this is where we wish that we could talk to Richard and Murray. We, love to get out the Ouija board and have a communique. But because if you watch the video, I think Louis goes up, right? Goes up. He might even make a tap. And then Murray says, and then you're going to cock your wrist, and the stick is supposed to come away from the palm. And Louis has come up so slowly that it hasn't come away, so he physically moves it away. He said, and then you can cock your wrist again and make your blow. Maybe you didn't say that in the video. And you can even add thrust with your middle finger if you want. Okay. See, Dick didn't teach it that way, right? But they're the same, and as it gets smaller and smaller, it's the same. I believe, we're pretty sure. But so there's this that happens, right? And then so you can do this and then go up, or you can do this and then Dick would have you go up more. He'd have you go up more. Okay? Get this, and then, or you can do what Murray Spivack would teach, which is you're going to go up, right? Feel that, and then you're going to, first one wasn't very good. This one was a little army. You see? Or Dick. Okay. I know, it's tricky. It's like, great. So now we have two different versions. And I can't believe I never talked to Richard Wilson about that after watching that video with him. Hey, this is things. Anyway, so, but it doesn't wait. It doesn't go and then do something.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's all one smooth motion. You get this and this, and this. It's just one smooth motion, whether Dick or Murray. We're trying to get one smooth motion. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Show me the first part of the throw.
Okay. Well, you mean that?
Yeah, just that.
Just pronating, because I was too extreme with it before, and now I'm pronating, but less of it. And then there was, you talked about the countervailing.
Okay, when you just did that, see your first time and the second time it was a latent response. Your arm didn't come down. Okay, so stay with me here. Stay with me for a sec. You see, once we get to here. See, once we decide to, Dick Wilson would scream, you leave the bead down when you go up, then you bring it up. And what he means by, and then you bring it up is, that's when there's countervalence. The forearm countervails. Okay, you went like this, and then you went like this. You went like this, and the arm didn't come down. There was no counterbalance. You were just waving your wrist around. Did you see the Nick Bollettieri? I think it's okay just to spend a minute, because we're kind of into theory right now, and to get this stroke better, we need to, right? This is one of the 7 basic strokes, to make a downstroke. And an appoggiatura is another one of them. So there's at least 2 7 basic strokes going on here. And then as this thing has the potential to become the third another of the 7 basic strokes, which would be it becomes a single stroke.
Yeah.
So potentially in the flam, we have alternating flams. We have the potential of 3 of the 7 basic strokes. That's a lot. How much time do we want to spend on them? Murray would give you 2 years and you were gone. You either got or you didn't. He just kept going. Take you through everything. Dick would spend forever with you. So would Richard Martinez. And so will I. And so it's worth spending a minute on this. Now, I put up that video, it's somewhere on my YouTube channel, of that famous tennis teacher, Nick Bollettieri, who both my brothers studied with. He's the guy that taught Andrew Agassi and Jimmy Arias and Jim Courier, and the list just goes on and on and on. And so he happened to be at the tennis and swim center that I frequent from a lap swim. And it's like Nick Bollettieri, I took out my phone and I found him teaching a clinic. I used to watch him teach in Florida where we moved. So my brothers could study with him, and I was working 6 nights a week in the lounge and finishing high school, playing music in the lounge. So I was hanging out with all those famous tennis teachers, including Lars Ulrich. I believe he was there at around that time. So we were all going to this school called Bradenton Academy. So there's a lot going on here. Anyway, Nick Bollettieri was a strict taskmaster, but you see him with these kids, and he's not as strict as I remember him being, but he was tough. And he takes a kid, he stops the kid. You should find the video. It's on my channel. He stops the kid because the kid is not having much success. He's in a line. You know, they come out, they take a couple hits, they're being fed balls, and the kid does something like this, and he goes, no, stop. Everybody, he turns around, so he's facing the camera. He goes, what this young chap is doing is, all he's doing is flicking his wrist. Now this time what I want you to do, son, is I want you to follow through to the face, the person that has fed you the tennis ball, right? I want you to point at him. And so the kid goes, yeah, something like that. Yeah. He goes, no. Racket ends up facing him. So the kid goes and hits it, and then faces him. There's a follow through, and then he comes right back to that. Boom! Does it again. Boom! Perfect. So there's this analogy. There is a follow through. There's always a follow through in this technique, right? I think that's correct to say. But what we're trying to do is recognize some of these principles, right? And so what we have is, we have not a flicking of the wrist. See, that's what brought us to it. See, because that's all you're really doing. It's like you're going to bring your arm up here and play on a drum that's here. But unfortunately, the drum is way down here. So now you have to shove your arm down in an attempt to get there, to make sense of any of this. So it's no longer a wrist turn. It's just you flicking your wrist. But the thing is all led by the wrist, you see? So we don't want to just flick our wrist. There has to be a countervalence. We get this, and then we see how the arm reacts. Everything reacts to one another, and then the whole thing comes to rest at the floor or pointing at the other tennis player. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to get that, and we don't want to stop. So you feel how heavy the stick feels? Just let the weight of the stick take you down. Yeah, feel you have to hold it up here, don't you? You have to hold it up? Well, let it go. So yeah, better, right? Now you can follow it up a little more if you want. No, I'm giving you Dick Wilson's. This is how Dick would teach. You just get this. Better, right? You don't make a big thing. It just hangs there. Remember I mentioned it hanging? And then all you're going to do is follow that up and make a blow. No, but you have to go a little further. Dick would have you follow it up a little more. The gooseneck. If you do it up, see, you stopped at the top and went to flick your wrist. See, it doesn't. See, okay, it doesn't stop at the top, because although that can work remedially to get a student to put all the parts together, it can lead to this, right? It can lead to you just stopping and flicking your wrists. But this thing is more holistic than that. Dick liked the idea that you got the arm for free. If you're getting the arm for free, it means that it doesn't have a mind of its own. It's reacting. It's reacting to everything. It's reacting. It's reacting. It's catching this wave. Think of all different ways to say it. Okay, but it doesn't do this. It doesn't go like this and wave up here, or try to get back to the surface. And then you would have this, watch. You have this kind of exaggerated pronation, and then you stop, and then you really go to do this, and the arm doesn't go down. So at the last minute, your body says, I got to get way down there, and you do this. Well, I guess it looks like this. See how different this looks than this. Okay. Here, a little more Dick. Better. Don't go shoving your arm down. That's better, but you don't shove your arm. Dick would say that a lot. Don't shove your arm. Better. See if you can do that on the drum or on the pad. No, you're just dragging the bead away from the surface. You're just yanking it all up with your arm. Your arm isn't really truly reacting from your wrist. No, now you're doing your overpronations. I know this is tedious. All you're going to do is get this bend of the wrist. Right? It's very relaxed. It feels very relaxed. Okay. And now you're going to go in the other direction and let everything collapse. Better. See, your arm is moving less, but it's moving a little bit. Okay. I'll start yanking it up. Don't lose the original. You have to get to this position. You actually do have to get to this position. And nope, you're not. See? No, you're like this. You were doing it right before. There. Don't look at it, feel it, or get out the mirrors. But okay. But go back down. Oh, I want you to start again. Yeah, just to there. You see, you actually have to get to there, and then it goes the other way. Get to there, and then go the other way. Get to there, and then go the other way. Better. Get to there, then go the other way. Better. Now put the left hand with it. You got to get to there, and it's not this. Getting to there doesn't mean this, but it means actually getting to there and then going the other way. Now you're just starting to yank it up. You have to get to there, which is less than you think. No, way too bad. Yeah, that's all it is. Now go the other way and make it happen. There. Concentrate on your right. Concentrate on your right. And as it starts to come down, you put the other hand with it. You can concentrate on your right for a long time without thinking about your left. No, I want your left. I want your left to play, but I notice as soon as you put your left into as part of the stroke, it changed your ability to focus on your right, which is understandable. But realize this is really slow. You have all kinds of time to think. And at the very last minute, you just make a little tap. No, you just yanked it up. There, now go the other way. See, in your left, you don't have to think about your left. Don't have to think, don't have to think. Now you can think. You can wait even longer. Look, it's just a tiny tap. It's just a tiny tap. Right? Nah, too big in the right. You watch, you just start to do this, and then you keep going up, and the bead pulls away from the surface. There, no, it's too much. You've gone up too high, but you see, and here's your solution to that, which is still not right. Your solution is that, okay, well then I'm not going to pull it away from the surface. Wow, I'm going to keep it there, and then you get this. Then you get the gooseneck. Actually, it's not, the gooseneck isn't wrong, by the way. It could be wrong if you did what you did and you called it a gooseneck. And I imagine that's what some of the students that came in for having studied with Dick were doing. So Marie didn't like it. Better. See, you don't have to think about your left. Better. Now give me an actual flame. Unison. Don't just go yanking it up. And don't come up so high thinking, I'm going to leave it down and come up really high. That's all it is. Now go the other way. Don't make such a big deal of the up. Oh, all right.
You want me to alternate?
That's all you need. It's not a big deal. No, just go in, we're in your left now. It's fine. No, let's play some single flams in your left and see what it's doing. Now the right doesn't have to think until the very last minute.
Yeah, let me start the metronome and just do it with the click.
No. I want to duplicate the experiment. This is fine.
Okay.
You don't need the metronome right now. That's just another thing for your mind to consider. Perhaps you don't need it. Okay, so you start to get it in the right. Don't come up, no. Coming up and pointing down, determined to not yank the beat, but that's not it. Smaller than that. And then you get to there, go the other way. Just to there, and go the other way. And the right, just the very last minute, and the right's going to make a tiny, tiny tap. Look, tiny, tiny. No, you're coming up to here, slamming. You're playing, you're back in you're not in your jazz modality. You're in your rock modality, right? Where you're playing some kind of rock flam.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's not what this is. It's a very quiet note. Arpeggiatura, no, it's just a little tiny note. Okay, just in the right, your left was doing it better. In the right, you're just going to make a tiny tap. Tiny tap. That's all it is. There, not bad. Don't go up too much. In the right. Better. One. No. You've actually got to get to here. You've got to get to here. Somehow you've somehow abandoned there. There you go. Just a little bit. It's a little bend, and then you go the other way. There, now go the other way. And that's a tiny tap in the right. Now your right's gotten real loud again. So how can it turn into a single stroke? You know, I guess it could. We want the appoggiatura to remember. Ultimately, if we were playing the kind of single stroke that Murray was showing Louis Belson in that video, he's not turning to the ceiling first for the first note. He's just making a motion. And you say you're so close to the surface, you might touch it. Right? See, if your appoggiatura is always this, how are we ever going to get it to be this? How are we going to get it to be this? So you see how we have to think of everything, right? You have to think of the appoggiatura in the right. Notice your grip is kind of on automatic pilot. I probably shouldn't have even said it's not bad. You see, you're not even thinking about you're not doing any weird. You're just holding the stick. And mostly, it's about making motions. It's like the motions that you would make if you don't have a stick, like we did over here. Remember? You got it just fine. You put a stick in your hand and it went wah. It's not about the stick. There, and then it goes the other way. Oh. You did it first. You went like this, and it was perfect. And then you went, I don't know why. That? No. It's got to hang just there. And now the other way. Take your time. Take your time. There. You take time during a stroke. No. Stay left for just a minute. Let's see if we can get you're adding, take your time. There's more time. Maybe that's why I had heard students of Richard Wilson say that, and Murray, that it's like you're in slow motion. Maybe this is what they meant. But there's all the time in the world. It's not a big rush thing. It's this thing. It's like there. And tap in the right. There. Don't slam the right down. Just lift it up and let it come down. The right. The right is a tiny tap. Still too high. Can you, okay. Tiny tap in the right. There! That was your best one yet. See how much time you have? You have all this time going up where you don't have to think about the right. Even as you start to come down at the very, very last minute, you just put a tap in. Tiny one. There. Now think that way, going both ways.
So alternate now, okay.
Now, see what you did with your left? Bam! With your appoggiatura. You slammed it. Right, a little better. Take your time. You have all the time in the world. Too high in the left for your appoggiatura. Okay. That's all it is. Forgot the appoggiatura. You have to think of everything. I know, it's mind-boggling, but you do. Or it won't sound right in playback. I mean, if you were requested to be recorded to play this for the intro of some jingle, they'd have to fix it in the mix. You don't want that. The appoggiatura, it's got to sound like a flam. Better. The appoggiatura has to be tiny. So you have to put more concentration now into the appoggiatura. Easy. Appoggiatura, appoggiatura, appoggiatura. Too high. You can do it by how high you turn. And that's what this technique is, right? The volume is relative to how high we turn. Still turning too high. Just play it, you know, go back to just playing a right down stroke, or I should say a right flam. Okay? Don't lay the sticks up. No, don't do that. That's not helping. Going into this, what don't you feel when you do this? What don't you feel that I want you to feel?
Well,
Go ahead, put the sticks on the surface and tell me what happens. Now go ahead and pick them up and put them at parallel. Does it feel different?
Yes.
It does, doesn't it? Go ahead, put them back down. Okay. Go on, lift them up. Right, that's what I want you to feel. Okay, I want you to feel as though you're holding up the sticks in parallel. Okay, right, and from there, in the left, as you go to play an appoggiatura, it's just this tiny tap. Just that, tiny. Yeah, that's all. There you go. Yeah. Tiny, right. Now just do one of those, go play in halftime. Play half that speed. No, I just meant the left. Just play a tap, little tap. There. Wait, do it again. See? Holding up the stick. You're at parallel. Go on, lift it up. You're at parallel. It's all you have to do. It's more about lifting it up. It could be that quiet. Just lift it up. It's not a big, up 4 inches pushing down. That's all it is. And you make that beautiful throw in your right as you do that. Just slowly bend your right wrist or let it collapse. Just let it fall. Then you go in the other direction as you make that tiny, you pulled up the left. Way too, yeah, almost. See, you really want to push that left down instead of letting it fall down. It's so quiet. Right there. The weight of the stick is enough, really. You can just do it. You can do it literally with gravity. Yeah, see? And in a sense, you could consider, watch, you could consider it, in a sense, this just all collapses. You can add force, but really, if you do it right, you can just let the whole thing collapse. You don't have to do much. A lot of gravity. It just fall from here. It's just falling. Ah, you get a pretty big number up there, right? You're just going to go, and everything collapses. You don't have to slam it down, Joe. Now you're just yanking the beat up. You've gone back to that. Don't. No. It's a tiny little bend, and you go the other direction with a tiny tap in the other hand. Go. Right flam. Not a tiny tap. You lifted it up and pushed it down in the left. There. There. Okay. Better. Keep it a flam. All right. You're getting the idea now. One more time. Up. You just yanked it up. You cannot let your mind lose concentration. So that's that tiny bend. There you go. Go the other way. There. To do that one more time in the other direction, just to lock it in. To concentrate on everything. The right. Don't come up too high to prove to yourself that you cannot yank it up. There. Now go the other direction. Not bad. Tiny turn in the right. Tiny gravity turn. That's it. There. Okay, man. Much better. If you can remember to remember. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Okay. I'm gonna turn off the camera for a minute. Okay. Good job, though. Excellent. It takes that much consideration. It takes that much meditation, the concentration, the focusing on the locus. Okay.